Hello, it is I, Sir Devon of Kang, and welcome back to another video. So, I've reached 100 subs on YouTube by the time this is out, and I decided to release a video saying 100 of my favourite characters and why I like them. So, we start off with the Elusive Man. Now, the Elusive Man is our starting point because he's very driven, very determined, and will sacrifice anything. And by the time you get I preferred him in 2 than in 3. And also, you rarely get to see him in person, only until the very last scene. And of course, in 3, he indoctrinated his own men, and Cerberus becomes a bit more hardened and more like a militia. But Cerberus made my favourite version of the Normandy, and they brought back Commander Shepard. And he's played by Martin Sheen as well. Then we have Megatron from War for Cybertron, specifically War for Cybertron. He's voiced by Fred Tassicor. B, this was more like a Megatron that was going to kill you, no matter what you did, no matter who you were. If you defied him, Megatron would just completely obliterate you. And this was the Megatron that killed Zeta Prime. And he alone corrupted the core of Cybertron. I think that's why War for Cybertron is my favourite game in the Transformers franchise, because their Megatron was more mature and more hungry for Optimus Prime's head, if that makes sense. Then we have Cybertron Starscream. So this was from the 2005 series Transformers Cybertron. This Starscream nearly killed Megatron. Like, he was this close to killing Galvatron in the later series of Cybertron, and he nearly destroyed Primus himself. Then we have Savage Opress. Yeah. Now, I bet everyone thought that this was a Darth Maul clone, and obviously it turned out to be his brother. Savage Opress, I think, yeah, he came a long way. It's a shame they killed him off in Season 5 because of Papa Palpatine. But Opress, yeah, he murdered a load of Jedi and clones. And he was a bit conflicted about where to go, and eventually he ended up going with Darth Maul. Nick from The Next Step. He's funny but goofy at times. And I think I'm not the biggest fan of Nick, if I'm honest. Don Ludina. Now I hated Udina at first. I think we all hated Udina. But in 3, at the beginning scene, you actually can't help but agree with him. You know, he's on your side for a bit until the attack on the Citadel happens. And for those who've not played 3, I won't spoil it. But until that moment, you kind of think, ooh, Udina's not that bad after all. Gandalf. This man has lived for an age, and he's seen both Bilbo and Frodo. And he fights for the greater good, as well as bringing together a fellowship to take out Sauron. And he was really the thing that kept the fellowship going. You know, even when they split up, even though he got killed by the Balrog, I think his death proved to Bilbo that we need to carry on. And when he came back as Gandalf the White, you know, he was, I think, you know, he's one of the most iconic wizards in I was going to say Harry Potter. I mean, Lord of the Rings. Because all I want to be is in Lord of the Rings. Then we have Hal Jordan. I really want a Green Lantern ring. because he fights for the justice of the Green Lanterns and the willpower. And of course, he was in Blackest Night. He was taken over by Parallax, and he sacrificed himself, sort of. So I've just had dinner. Then we have Percival from Bakugan. Now, this is what my signature move is named after. So in my wrestling show, by the way, on Sunday, no, not Sunday, Saturday, the 11th, I think. No, yeah, the 11th. Devon Kilgore will be defending his international championship against Max Icarus. And his signature move is called Darkest Percival after this Bakugan. I mean, look at that design. And then we have Doom Guy. Yeah, this guy is a Chad. Like, he took a look down a shite load of demons and, did what had to be done. And not much is known about his origins as well. And of course, at the end of Doom Eternal, he's put in his tomb, ready to be awoken again in the 41st millennium when he sees a lot of bigger guys than him. Next up, we have Darth Maul. Filoni made the right decision to bring this man back in the Clone Wars. I mean, it was a surprise to all of us that he survived Naboo, and all the anger kept him alive and his hatred for Kenobi! And also, do you think we'll be seeing him in The Bad Batch Season 2? And I think Sam Witwer portrayed him to perfection. Like, he was a perfect stand-in for Ray Park. Because when we first saw Maul in The Phantom Menace, we were like, we don't like this guy. When Filoni brought him back, they made him into a literal badass. This guy ran Mandalore for a bit. Not caring what anyone thought. And he's like Kenobi's equal. Then we have Lily from Power Rangers Jungle Fury. I really like the episode where she turns biker for a slight moment, because being the only female of 4 male rangers, Jungle Fury Yellow, as it were, would should have fun with the guys. And I love Jungle Fury because they had some great characters. Then we had Madison Rocker from Power Rangers Mystic Force. Now, the thing about Mystic Force is that it was one of the first one of the shows to explore a Power Ranger having a crush on another Ranger. Of course, Maddie had a slight thing for Nick, who's the Red Ranger. And the episode when she was frozen, I think it was either Nick or Xander. Actually, I can't remember what happened in that episode because it's been so long since I watched it. But yeah, I think Maddie was one of the first Rangers to express feelings for his counterpart and saying, do I like this guy? Do I not? Then, speaking of Mystic Force, Xander Harris. He's just Xander. The Mandalorian, Dingerin, because Mandalorian was one of the best live action shows Disney Plus has ever made. This is the way I have spoken. Much better than Reva. The Borg Collective. Now, the Borg Collective, up until Star Trek Picard, when they completely tarnished them, were really menacing. Of course, if you watch First Contact, that was how I got into Star Trek, actually. The Borg were really scary. You could see how they assimilated other people into their collective. Which is why they're one of the most iconic villains of all time. Toady. It's just Toady. Thundercracker. Now, this Thundercracker was quite, in the War for Cybertron continuity, was more of a scientist than a soldier. And he took a lot of readings. And then Skywarp, again, he had one of the best missions in the Wii version of War for Cybertron. Of course, the console versions, I like the banter between him and Thundercracker. Then we have Demolisher. Demolisher had so much potential in War for Cybertron. One of the best designs I've ever seen in a Transformer. I kind of envision him as kind of a Crosshair-like character. Yeah, I like Demolisher because he's big and tough and you don't care what happens. Then we have Bruticus. Admit it, we all had fun playing as him in Fall of Cybertron. I actually like the Combaticons because they were more militarized and a valuable asset to the Decepticon cause. And also Bruticus was voiced by Fred Tassicor as well. And of course, there have been many other incarnations, like the Robots in Disguise version in 2001. Then we have Savitar. Savitar is one of those villains who are just broken, not evil, and just got really angry and driven to insanity. Season 3 of The Flash was a bit disappointing because it kept on with a generic main villain, evil speedster type character. But Savitar had a lot of potential, and he would have killed Iris. I'd have preferred that. I would have preferred that to H.R. Wells. You know, H.R. Wells didn't deserve to die in season 3. Pythor. Oh my god, I loved the golden age of Lego Ninjago. Like, of course, there was so much mystery surrounding his tribe. And to me, Pythor was so mysterious, and he was like the only one of his kind of like 2005 Doctor Who. And you know, Pythor in this was so manipulative of young Lloyd Garmadon. And then of course he returned in Rebooted. And then we got to explore more of his tribe. Then we have Scales. So he was kind of like a traitor when he first appeared, of course, when he overthrew the other Hypnobrai leader. Kind of like Starscream and Megatron. No, kind of like when Galvatron kills Starscream. And of course, later on we find out he has a son. And I like the Hypnobrai because they get to hypnotize people. What I love about the Rise of the Snakes toy line of Ninjago is that each snake is based on a certain type of venomous snake. Then we have Lloyd Garmadon. Now, I know everyone hated him at first, but later on, when he was... Lloyd's done a lot in his run in Ninjago in the early seasons, long before the rebooted timeline. I think it should have ended after season 3, if I'm being honest, or after the Morrow season or the Ghost Pirates. But Lloyd, or the Hands of Time, that's when it should have ended. But Lloyd Garmadon had come a long way because obviously he fast forwarded his age a bit, I seem to recall. When, you know, they needed him most and he defeated the Overlord and he turned his father back into a human and he tried to turn Lord Garmadon back into a good guy. Then we have Von Nebula. This guy had a lot of potential in Hero Factory. I think he could have returned in some of the later seasons in Brain Attack. In fact, Invasion from Below shouldn't have been made full stop. because we would have seen Von Nebula's return. I actually envisioned a similar type to Von Nebula's return, but luckily someone else has, and it's really good. And he's also haunted my nightmares a few times. The unnamed villain from Brain Attack. Again, this guy had a lot of potential. I I think he's called Dark Maker. I don't know, but obviously his model is based on Voltix and Black Phantom. I'm wondering if the Black Phantom, Voltix, and this guy are all brothers. Be kind of like the Shelby family. But yeah, this guy had a lot of potential. Then we have Furno. Of course, in the early days of Hero Factory, it was all about Furno. Of course, we have the 4-part Rise of the Rookies serial, which explored Furno's character development. You know, from being this whiny kid to in Breakout being this mentor to the younger heroes, so to Evo and Rocker, I think, yeah. Like he's kind of like Fives from Star Wars in a way. Then we have Jesse. Now, when we're first introduced to Jesse, I think it was the first separate 501st. No, he wasn't. You know, the first 501st clone introduced that would no. I think he was because obviously he's introduced on a Bark Speeder, but he came a long way from being the guy who noticed Rex was shot down in the episode with Cutler Quain, then becoming an ARC trooper at the Siege of Mandalore, and then obviously obeying Order 66. You know, I love how they keep up with Jesse's character. Then we have Kilgore. First of all, this is from The Flash, and now this is how I got my wrestling gimmick name, Devin Kilgore. I named him after this guy, so he can hack technology. And don't you think he looks kind of like Linkara? Just saying. I mean, I like Kilgore as a villain. He can hack technology. Then we have Kit Fisto. Okay. So remember the episode when when Kit Fisto goes to General Grievous's lair? He dueled Grievous with 2 lightsabers. That was such a badass scene we got from Mr. Fisto. Of course, his commander died that day, as did his Padawan, when he said, "I can take on General Grievous myself." Dark Laser. Oh, great parody of Darth Vader. uh, it's literally a cartoon version of Darth Vader with his own like mini Death Star. Dark vegan from Johnny Test. They tried to warn us about vegans. Uncle Grizzly from Grizzly Tales for Gruesome Kids. This man has turned up in my nightmares. No, but literally every Saturday morning I'd go downstairs at 6:30, CITV, one of the shows I'd watch would be this. I loved seeing Uncle Grizzly and what he'd say today. Now, this is of course Donna Sweet from Riverdale. She was my favourite character in season 4, yeah. In fact, it's one of the only good things about the 4th season. By the way, Sam Witwer survived, don't worry, you can find him on Camino, and currently he's dueling Darth Vader. But the reason I like Donna is because she manipulated it all. Like, she set everyone up. She's kind of like, I think her actor would be a good master. Or the Doctor. We don't want another Dr. Karen, do we? If it's written by Big Finish, then yeah, bring her in. Just don't let Satan Chibnall or Russell T Davies get hold of it. But Donna, because she made it look as though uh, Jughead was killed. Like she was, I don't know, she was a great character, and one of the only good things about season 4. Davros. Now, I went to a Doctor Who convention a few months ago and saw Terry Malloy. He is much different now. But I will say that Malloy played Davros to his best abilities, because he made him into a shouty, ranty leader who wanted to kill the Doctor and, make his own Daleks, the supreme beings. Then we have Q from Star Trek. Now, Q was so amusing. Like, he's one of my favourite villains, because he just makes things happen, and he's like a god, and whenever he clicks his fingers, something just appears out of nowhere. Ahsoka Tano. Now, we all remember whiny Ahsoka in the first season, but I think Dave Filoni improved Ahsoka with the lightsaber arc and with the Padawan arc, and she's become one of the best known female characters in Star Wars. I liked Admiral Yularen as well. He was a good admiral for Anakin and co. And then, of course, portrayed by the great Tom Kane, who sadly had to retire. Then Tony Stark. So Tony Stark, Iron Man to me, he's kind of what happens when you use a terrible thing happening in your life for good. Like, if you're a bad guy and you hate the world, something really bad happens to you, you lose everything. But then you see a big event makes you see the bigger picture, that life's not all bad, and you have to, in order to make life good, you have to be the hero. Batman, because I'm Batman. He's had a lot of trauma over the years. Now, Voltix is so mysterious. I like that he was faithful to Von Nebula. Like, he treated him like he was a god. Like, I still want to know how he held Von Nebula's essence in him when he released him in Breakout. Like, this guy could have easily been the main villain of Breakout. Just saying. A Titan from Warhammer 40k. Now, could we create our own little Titan? I mean, we have Jaegers in Pacific Rim, but as in, could we really make a Titan like now if we had the resources? Tommy Shelby. It's a bit of a tie between this man, because he's done some bad things, but in the parliament, he has stood up for the lower class people of Birmingham. Then we have Commander Cody. Yeah, Cody's one of the most iconic Star Wars clones to ever exist, I think. Then Priv Vizsla. He looks so badass in that Mandalorian armor. I think Priv Vizsla bringing in Death Watch was the beginning of Star Wars using the Mandalorians more. Before the Mandalorian, there was the Death Watch. Papa Palpatine. This guy somehow killed his own master. Made an entire war and hidden under the Jedi's grasp. Then telling his own soldiers to kill the Jedi. Then making his own empire, somehow surviving. How does he do it? Ripley from Alien, she's been through a lot. Alien 1 was a brilliant movie. You know, Ripley single-handedly survived a xenomorph. She's probably the only one alive to tell the tale. One of the only few alive to tell the tale. She saw it from minute one. Then we have a tech priest. These guys love their technology. So basically, think tech nerd, but worshipping a machine god, the god emperor of mankind. So much mystery surrounded in this character. You know, it could have been anyone. You know, conspiracy theorists could have spent hours talking about who he is and what he does. Jerry Trainer because Spencer Shea because he's Spencer Shea. The 12th Doctor had some good morals, I think. He was a much darker tone for the series. Doctor Who for me stopped in series 10, I think. You know, series 9 taught the lesson as long as there's always mercy, even if you hate the one man. And of course, it was Davros. And a lot of people, I think, were frustrated at that because he's the one person that's going to kill everyone and, you know, you can't stop it. You know, the 12th Doctor always was one step ahead of the villain and, you know, and he was serious as well, which is what I think the show needed. Knockout. He was a great character in Transformers Prime. Like, he was so amusing, had some of the funniest moments. And his voice by the same man who voices Mr. Turner in Fairly Odd Parents. And then Jorgen von Strangle, Arnold Schwarzenegger, but as a fairy. Like, he's basically the Chad fairy. Doofenshmirtz, one of the best villains ever made. Like, you can't help but like him, but he's the main villain. Luna Lovegood because she was a different addition to Hogwarts, and Luna was very different to all the other students in main Hogwarts. Davy Jones. Now, Davy Jones again is a villain who was just broken by love, and he taught me that betrayal can hurt you. Just don't turn into what Davy Jones became. And he's got one of the best actors as well. Master Chief. I'm only putting him here because of the TV show. Master Chief is one of the best characters known in video game history. And he blew up a Covenant ship. In the first 3 games, you know, so iconic. When the TV show went downhill from there. Now, this is from a comedy called Hello Hello, which is set in wartime France. Now, Officer Crabtree is introduced in the 2nd season as the police officer. Now, he's bad at French. He makes it so obvious, but everyone sees through him. Peter Griffin, one of the greatest voices of Seth MacFarlane. Speaking of Family Guy, Joker. I love this character. He has so many one-liners. Mr. Krabs. Because he gets away with all these crimes, including pollution, bankruptcy, fraud, nearly killing a bunch of kids because he made a cheap theme park. Like cruelty to employees. There is a dark side to Mr. Krabs, but you know, you've got to love SpongeBob. Chakotay now. Chakotay is one of my favourite commanders because he was telling his marquee crew members that if we merge with Captain Janeway, we'll all be fine. Then we have Donatello. I think Donatello, his crush on April, I think kind of reminded me of how, I know it's goofy, but what teenage obsession is like. Like I said, April, my beautiful princess! Nyssa from Doctor Who, because she was an intelligent companion and she cared about the Doctor and Adric. The 11 is one of my favourite Doctor Who villains of all time. I prefer him to them. I actually think he's better than the Master in a way, because Mark Bonas makes it sound so psychotic, as well as John Heffernan. I think we should get more. I like to explore more of his incarnations from Big Finish. Then Zoom. So Zoom had quite a traumatic childhood as Hunter Zolomon, and he was so scary and threatening. I think he was a good predecessor to Thorn. Captain Jack Harkness, just because he's badass and he wants to save the world. And Captain Jack Sparrow, Justice for Johnny, screw Amber Turd, and because it's Captain Jack Sparrow. Starkiller, definitely a good character from Star Wars. In the Force Unleashed 1, you get to see, as he was a child who survived Order 66, and he becomes Vader's a secret apprentice, and of course, the rule of two comes into play, and the ending duel. This guy nearly killed Darth Vader and the Emperor. He turned Luke to the dark side, killed Obi-Wan. This guy could have been the most powerful thing in the Star Wars galaxy. Darth Starkiller. Now, this is what I was talking about. So, in alternative endings of The Force Unleashed, you become this. If you have the DLC, or the Ultimate Sith Lord Edition, you go on a what-if scenario. So, during A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, so you get to go to Jabba's palace, you get to kill Boba Fett and Obi-Wan, and you get to turn Luke to the dark side. Josh from the next step. Josh was kind of underrated. I preferred him to Finn. I think him and Piper would have been nice. Then we have Alfie from the next step. He's misunderstood. He meant well, but Riley kind of dragged herself into his arms. Captain Rex. You gotta love Captain Rex, because the clones are one of the best things about Star Wars. And of course, he's one of the most iconic figures in Star Wars today. If it wasn't for Captain Rex, a lot of people wouldn't like the clone troopers. Then we have Echo. He's a by-the-book guy. Fives, he exposed the chips. Hardcase, his sacrifice. And Heavy, his sacrifice. A moment of silence, please, for all the clones that died. Plo Koon, because he cared about the clones. Like he said, you're not expendable. And it's also a shame that he got killed during Order 66 by his own men. H.R. Wells, this guy was one of the funniest characters Tom Cavanaugh has portrayed on telly. I think we need more H.R. Wells. I shouldn't have killed him off. Davis from the next step had a lot of potential. Of course, she wasn't in it that long, but she was relevant to the plot. I preferred Davis to Jackie. I think she was softer than Jackie, and she deserved more. Emily was been carrying the next step since day one, and she knows what's best for her troop, although she runs it like the Empire. Emily does pick out a diamond in the rough, as Riley once said, and find out the best in everyone. Heather underrated, funny, and one of a kind character. Don't hate on Heather. Now Lily. So she had a lot of potential as well, I think. When she's introduced, she's Miss Angela's version of Starscream. Well, no, not Star. Actually, yeah, because she's kind of like Miss Angela's Starscream. She's loyal to Angela until actually kind of like a Sarge Ventress, but a Sarge Ventress. I mean, Lily is like a Sarge Ventress in she listens to Angela until she finds out what Angela's really like and what she wants for the next step, and then when she finds out she's cheated, she turns her back on her and she goes to the next step. Kind of like a Sarge Ventress and Count Dooku. By the way, Sarge Ventress also came a long way since we first saw her, and she was very flirtatious with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So Max could have easily been in season 4 if they wanted to, and Max had a lot of potential. And on the second week, and I just want to say, if this comes out in the first week of June, he will face Max Icarus. Max Icarus will face Alfred Kerry's in NXT. See, he will go for Devon Kilgore's international championship. Definitely watch it. 1700 GMT on this channel. Be there for it. I'd hate for you to miss out. James is such a bro. He's been through a lot with Riley. He's loyal to Riley, and he confronted Alfie. Loyal to Riley to the core. Unlike Riley, Gareth Vakarian loves his calibrations and easily one of the best squad mates. And he isn't for the rules. He likes to do things his own little way. Tali Zora, one of the best, my favourite romance in Mass Effect. I've romanced Talia I don't know how many times because she's an entertaining character. Jack. So Jack kind of goes on a journey from being this criminal cryogenically frozen in 2 to facing her childhood, then becoming a different person in 3 when she teaches Grissom Academy. Darth Treya. I think my favorite female character in all of Star Wars, because she not just is hard on everyone, but she tells everyone to face the harsh reality that lies in front of them, and she gives some morals. And if you really listen to her dialogue, some of it can be life lessons, like what makes a good leader. And she easily predicted the future in Star Wars. And she's got an amazing voice actress, Sarah Kesselman. KOTOR 2 is one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time. From that game, we have Darth Nihilus as well. So this guy eats planets. He nearly destroyed Telos, and he nearly consumed the Jedi just by existing. And when you're in his ship, the Ravenger, you feel his presence, and you know he's there. But, it's kind of like a horror movie when you're lurking throughout a maze and you know that thing is there. Revan, he made up the rule of 2 and he saw what others didn't in the Force. Harry Wells. I think Harry Wells, I can see a bit of myself in Harry Wells because he doesn't like talking to people much. He's very dedicated and focused to his work. Then we have Eobard Thorn. I love this villain because he's kind of like the jealous fanboy type. Like, he wanted to be exactly what Barry Allen was, but he was so jealous he realized he couldn't be the Flash, and that really made him angry. And he hated Barry. Hate is the hell of a motivator, and he uses that hate to try and kill Barry Allen. And he's played by one of my favorite actors, Matt Letcher. Sierra from The Next Step. Sierra was a very thoughtful character. She was caring, and Sierra was one of my favorite characters in The Next Step history. Crosshair. Now, I can't wait to see him and Cody in the Bad Batch season 2. Crosshair is I think he's one of my favorites because Crosshair gets things done. He doesn't mess around, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. He's a very chilling and cold villain. That's why I like him so much. I think he's my favorite out of all the Bad Batch. You know, he's the emo kid, but he's also the quiet one, and he doesn't talk with others as much. He's focused. Skylar. Now, Skylar is my favorite Next Step character of all time. Not just because I could relate to her, but because Skylar had enough of the Next Step and she knows what she wants. She goes out and achieves that goal no matter the cost. You know, she stood up to Riley. She tried to recruit Jackie for Gemini. And, you know, she's a bit like me in a way, and she keeps all the drama outside the studio. Also, one of my favorite human beings as well. My favorite character. Then we have Darth Bane. Darth Bane is easily my favorite Star Wars character of all time because Lord Bane was the one who initiated the rule of two, and he saw that what the Brotherhood of Darkness were doing wasn't the Sith way of doing things, so he decided, I'm going to take over myself. And he comes from an awful background. He comes from, and I'd like to see a Darth Bane movie, please. And I admire Bane because he would even kill his own to prove a point. My favorite character of all time is Commander Shepard. Now, I'm currently on Mass Effect 3 at the minute, and Shepard has been through quite a lot. So he goes from getting depending on which origin story you choose, being this Space Ranger type character that's drafted from Earth to Eden Prime to search for a Prothean beacon, to going to Ilos to destroy this big ass Reaper thing and stop this invasion and stop Saren, and to stopping the Collectors, joining Cerberus, losing a few friends as well, and going to all-out war, and eventually coming to an ultimatum: control, destroy, synthesis, refuse. Indoctrination theory, or Marauder Shields ending. Or none of them could be canon. But the reason he's been through a lot. And also what's good about him is you control who Commander Shepard is. It's your Shepard. You have the moral decisions, and Mass Effect plays on those decisions, saying what you would do and what complications it would have for the galaxy. Say if you spare the Rachni Queen, it becomes relevant in the future, but if you kill the Rachni Queen, then the Rachni are dead. You know, it has big implications on Mass Effect, the main universe. I think that's why I love Mass Effect so much. So, thank you for the 100 subs. I usually say you don't have to like the video because I'm not that guy. I don't force people to like things. We should have a choice in what we want to watch, as long as we enjoy the content. But thanks for the 100 subs. If you've been with me from the beginning, thanks for being there. If you've just joined, hello there. And yeah, so um, I knew it would be a slow process to get 100 subs, but I have evolved in the amount of a few years from uploading ECW shows to Mass Effect, NXT, Star Wars, and Mass Effect crossovers. A lot of changes and a lot of experiences. So, thank you very much for watching. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. See you goodbye and good night.